Hi everyone, it's Adam with WebStarts, and in this video I'll be sharing with you a few things you can do to make your website look better or create a good looking website. Before we get started, let me go ahead and just click on Get Started on webstarts.com where we'll be building this website. The next thing I'm going to do is choose a design. You can choose any design with WebStarts and all the designs are 100% customizable. Of course, now it's time to enter my name, email address, and choose a password, so I'll do that quickly. And of course, as part of the sign-up process, I just need to verify that I'm a real person by entering my phone number and then entering the code sent to my phone. Now it's time to choose a subdomain name for my website. I'm just going to say goodlookingsite.webstarts.com and click continue. Let's close out the getting started video. And then let's take a look at our website. You'll see the thumbnail for the website. I want to edit it, so I'm just going to click on Edit Site. And that loads up the WebStarts page editor. The WebStarts page editor is where you'll make edits and changes to the pages of your website. So when you're trying to make your website look better, this is where you'll be doing the work, at least when it comes to WebStarts. Everything in WebStarts is drag and drop, and you probably know that by now. So you can just click on any element on the page and then drag and drop it where you would like it to appear. Each page is divided into a header section. That's the top section up here that stays the same on each page where it's displayed. And then below that is the main body or content section. And then at the bottom, there's also a footer that stays the same on every single page. So there are just some things to keep in mind as we're working along today. So the first principle that I want to teach to create a good looking website is just using enough white space. So one of the things that people tend to do that makes your website look bad is they clutter elements together, so you see too many elements with not enough space. To create white space, all you really need to do is select the elements and then just grab the smart handle and drag down or up to reduce the amount of space. So for this demo, I'm just going to increase the amount of space between that hero image, it's called, which is this image that runs across the top of the page, and these smaller images on my website. And I'm also going to increase the amount of space that's between each image and the text. And this just adds a little bit of space around everything so it's easier to look at and easier to read. So that's one principle that you need to keep in mind. The next thing that I want to point out is that to create a good looking website, you really need some quality photography. You may not have quality photography on hand or be able to afford to hire a professional photographer and do a photo shoot, but certainly if that's an option, I suggest that you do it. If it's not an option and you need to find some high quality photos, you can find those in WebStarts. Simply double click on any image or click on the insert image option and then click image search. That'll open up the WebStarts image library, and from there you can search for images by category or by keyword and even by color. So for this demonstration, I just want to find some different fitness photos, so I'm going to search for the keyword fitness. I like this photo, so I click on it and then just click insert file, and I'm going to put it into my template or into my design. So that's a good looking photo. Shows a little bit about fitness, which is obviously the subject matter for this demonstration. But you can see there that that's a nice high quality photo. So we've got a ton of high quality photos built in. But again, if you really want to set your website apart, get some professional photography done and then upload those professional quality photos. Another thing to keep in mind when working with photos is that if you can make the photos look like they're shot at the same time and have the same filters applied to them, they'll look a lot better. So let's take a look at these 3 photos here. Obviously, these were all taken by the same photographer in the same photo shoot, and so they have the same adjustments to the images, the same filters and kind of effects applied to them. So that's something that you can do to just create some conformity between the photos. Another important thing to keep in mind when trying to make a good-looking website is that things need to be aligned with each other. I like to visualize imaginary lines when putting my elements on a page. So for example, this button may not look the best right here because it's not really aligned with anything in particular. Like for example, maybe it's better off aligned with this logo, so you just align it along the grid line on the side of the page. Or maybe it's better if it's just centered. Here you can see that WebStarts has a built-in feature that snaps to the center and shows you when one element is aligned with another. That's what those little pink lines are all about. Another thing that you can do in WebStarts to help make a pixel perfect design is just click and then drag and hold the shift key, and what that will do is it'll lock you in place so you can move an element horizontally or vertically without having to worry about slipping a couple of pixels. That's just a great little shortcut to doing that. Another thing that you can do is click on View and enable the element position. So for example, if my button is positioned 290 pixels down the page, I can see that under the Y coordinates, and I can see the 0 next to the X coordinates. That means that it's aligned all the way up here to the left. Now if I add another element to my page, let's say for example a text box, let's just do that, and I want it to be aligned, I can tell that it's exactly 290 pixels down the page as well because it's displayed there with the X and Y coordinates. Now I can also move elements using the arrows on my keyboard. By tapping an arrow in any direction, one tap at a time, I move 1 pixel at a time. And by holding the shift key and tapping a direction arrow, I can move elements 10 pixels at a time. Again, this is a nice way to create a pixel perfect design. Another thing to keep in mind when designing your website is just the balance of the elements on the page. For example, you wouldn't want to have all of the things that you need to communicate on a page. For example, the paragraph of text, the call to action button, maybe a divider or an icon. You wouldn't want to have that all crammed into one section of a page. You most definitely would want to spread those things out so that they kind of give some balance to the page. So if you're going to put, for example, your social network icons, maybe you're going to do that over here to the right, aligned with the button. And then if you're going to put a paragraph of text, maybe you would do that as an aligned right piece of text, just because you have that top section over here aligned to your left. So there you can see that I'm adding those elements to the page, and I'm just creating balance as I go around the page. Contrast is another important consideration when creating a good-looking design. If you have, let's say for example, this black background and you have something like this hot pink, you don't have as much contrast here, so things don't pop as much. So if you want to draw attention to, let's say, a photo, then it might make more sense to just make it black so that there's more contrast between the photo and the background. Also, there's a lot of contrast between that very hot pink logo and the background as well. So contrast is something that you need to keep in mind, and it's also important to keep in mind for the sake of making a website that's easy to read. Black text on a white background is probably the easiest to read, whereas white text on a black background is also very easy to read. Now you can change the text sometimes to something like a light gray, and you can still see that pops off of a black background. Another thing to keep in mind when designing your website is the hierarchy. That just means that first things need to be first and last things need to be last. So if you come to a website, the average person is going to give about 4 or 5 seconds to figure out they're on the right place. So if I did a search on Google for personal trainers in my area, and I clicked on this search result and went to this website, I would definitely want people to find out right away that I'm on a fitness related or personal training related website. And so it's important to put a headline that says, personal trainer, or whatever that search term or whatever that category of website is, somewhere really front and center, and then work down there in terms of importance. One of the other important things that you need to consider is your call to action, because it says, now that you're at the right website, what do you want me to do next? And that's going to be your call to action. So if it's book a workout, then you would want to put that book a workout button kind of front and center. Then as you work down the page, maybe you talk about some of the supporting characteristics of your website, like some of the benefits maybe of using you as a personal trainer in this example, and then maybe also some of the things that make you better or different from competitors. And the way that you can do that is either by just adding additional strips and little paragraphs of content. And if you do that, make sure that you're spacing them out accordingly and that you're making sure that everything's aligned with each other. So if I was going to do icons, for example, in this next section, I would just click on an icon. I'm just going to use any icon, so just go with the flow. Change the color to white so it stands out over my black background. But then I'm going to make sure that that icon is somewhat aligned, like center aligned with these images that are up above. And then I'm just going to use the duplication tool to create more of these icons. So now I have 3 of those icons spaced out real nicely, and then I want to create some more symmetry by just using the same paragraph of text below the icons instead of the images. So I just duplicated one of those paragraphs of text, and then I'm just going to align those paragraphs of text with each icon. And of course I'm duplicating those as I go, and you can see I'm using the Snap to feature to find center on each one of those icons and make sure they're also aligned properly in terms of their vertical layout. Now I don't want to have quite that much white space at the bottom, but if I wanted to add a little bit more, you can see I can just grab those smart handles and push all the elements underneath the smart handle down the page, and then use the Snap to grid lines to align those elements with each other. And that gives me a nice, neat, professional looking layout. Now, as always, when you're done, make sure that you click save so you don't lose your work. And if you ever want to view that on the live website, you just click view site. Hopefully you discovered some new ways that you can create a better looking website using things like quality photography, the shift and hold features, the arrow keys on your keyboard, and a lot more. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications to be the first to find out when I release a new video. And don't forget to visit webstarts.com. And don't forget to visit webstarts.com to create your very own free website and see more helpful videos like this.